Hello there, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another video on Autodesk Inventor. Today we are going to look at the create environment, everything that we have in the create environment. So the create environment actually starts from where I'm hovering the cursor. You can see it indicates start 2D sketch. So it spans from here all the way up to this section. So under the create environment, we have the extrude, revolve, sweep, loft, coil, read, derive, emboss, decal, import, unwrap. So we're going to look all of these icons, what they do and their functionality, as well as I'm going to give you some tips and tricks on how to increase your efficiency in your workflow environment, some of the things that you can do to even automate some things. I did another video talking about how to create 2D sketches, how to sketch. That video is a prerequisite to whatever that we are going to be talking about in this episode. So I would highly encourage, if you have not watched that video, kindly go back, watch that video. I'm also going to attach it in the description below so that it's easier for you to track it. Learn that it's 1 hour crash course for beginners if you're a beginner, but if you already have some background when it comes to 2D sketches, then you can continue watching. All right, so we're going to start a 2D sketch, and for sketches you can either sketch on the XZ plane where I'm hovering the cursor, or the XY plane, and then lastly there is the YZ plane, depending on what you like. I prefer using the XY plane because my background has always been AutoCAD. All right, then we're going to create a line, random line like this. So it's a sketch. The good thing about Inventor, you don't need to worry how you create it. You can just create it the way you like, and then you put your dimensions and constraints later. I'm going to use a few constraints here because it's not something that complex. So I'm going to use a coincident constraint to bring this point to this point there, and then perpendicular constraint this and this. This, I think they're perpendicular. So then now we can go ahead put some dimensions. So that is not what I want. Then put a coincident this point to that point. Then one thing I'm going to do is to align this point such that they are vertical, this and this, like that. Then we can dimension this side here. We can set here to be 20 millimeters. Then on this side we are going to make it half of this. So click on this dimension, divide by 2, that is gives you 10. And then here you can see it's not 90 perpendicular this and this. Right now it's perfectly 90. Then on this side we can also say it's going to be 20, like that. And then one last thing, we can put this dimension top here, say it's going to be 10. So d7 divided by 2, like that. So you can see now that our sketch turns white, meaning that it's fully constrained. If you try to click any of this and drag around, you cannot drag it. So it's fully constrained. Once you're done with that, hit the finish. All right, now we can now explore what extrude does. So click on extrude here, and then you can see what it does. So immediately it identifies that there is a sketch. So the sketch is what derives things here. So you must have a sketch for you to extrude, revolve, or do any other thing in the create environment. All right, so when it comes to extrude, you can either do a solid extrusion like what we have here. Alternatively, there is a surface extrusion. So if you click, it will toggle to a surface. So a surface is a bunch of planes. If I rotate that, you can see it's a bunch of planes put together. Then when I click it back, it changes to a solid. All right, here you see you have to select a profile. You can choose a plane which the sketch lies on, and then there are these direction keys at the bottom here. You can either toggle it. Right now it's from the plane extending outside in this direction. You can shift the direction back, or you can do a symmetric extrusion whereby it extrudes equally. Right now the extrusion by default is 10 millimeters. If you, meaning that you have 5 millimeters on this side and 5 the other side. From the plane you can see where, even by and highlight the background where the sketch is, you can also do asymmetric extrusion. What that means is that you have distance A which extends 10 millimeters from the plane to this point, and then on the other side is 5. So if we change the other 5, we can even make it bigger. We can make it 15. You can see there it changes like that. And then there's the flip direction, meaning that you can switch between 15 comes on this side and 10 goes on the other side. But for this one, I'm just going to use the symmetric constraint there, whereby we have extending half half. So that is 15. I can even use, let me use 20 there, so that it extends 10 times. Click OK. All right, that is about the extrude command. Next I want us to look at the revolve, what it does. So the revolve feature, what I'm going to do there is I'm going to hide, or let me extend, click this sketch. Let me finish that. What I want to do is to reuse the sketch, so click share sketch. Then we are going to hide, turn this, whatever that we have already created, so we can hide it. So I want us to, instead of creating something again, or even we can just delete it. That's about the extrude. Then I want us to go on revolve. So I'm going to click edit this sketch. I'm going to change something small because I wanted to reuse this. I'm going to create a center line. So as the way revolve command works is that you must always have a center line on which you are going to revolve your profile again. So click on line, and then here there is this center line. Select that, click at this point, then at that point you can see this line, and then we're going to say that from this to where we have our sketch is going to be 10, like that. And then we're going to align the bottom of these with that, such that they are that aligned. Then click finish. Then we go revolve, and just like that. So what is happening here is that Inventor has identified the profile and where the axis of rotation. So the axis of rotation by default is this one. So you can do a full 360 revolution, or alternatively you can do a 180. So 180 is half, depending on what you want. You can even do a 90. So there are no limits on terms of what you can do. You can even flip it to the other side so that it revolves like that. Alternatively, you can do a half revolution or a symmetric revolution, just like the extrude command. All right, we're going to go to the default, and then there is this here whereby you have, this is just the angle, and then you can just click full will do a full 360 revolution. Then you can do a 2 extrusion. 2 extrusion is where maybe you have a plane that you want to extrude to, or a surface you want to do. and then you can either toggle between a surface. So if I click a surface, the surface has no mass, has no any physical properties, or you can just do that and click OK. So that is about the revolve command. Then we are going to look at the sweep command. So for that, I'm going to click on this. I'm going to delete that. Just click OK. We're going to look at the sweep. So the sweep, you must have a profile. So click start to do 2D sketch. We're going to create a line like that, and again goes like that, and then we are going to create a small fillet. Let me give it like 5 millimeters. Select, click on this, that, such that we have this curvature there, and then you can finish. Now this is going to be our profile where we are going to sweep our surface. Yeah, we are going to sweep our profile too. So for that, what I want to do here is to create a small circle at this point here. So for that, we will need a plane at this point where we are going to sketch. Later on these episodes, I'm going to do another video on how to create a plane. There are so many ways to create a plane. It's a topic on its own. Click plane and select that point and that line. You see, when I hover the cursor, you can see a preview. That plane, if I click there, so what it will do is it's going to create a plane that is normal with this line. Yeah, it's 90 degrees. You can see there. Now on this plane is where we are going to sketch. Click there, and then we are going to project a point. So click project geometry, and then we are going to project this point. Now there is where we are going to be snapping our circle at, and then if I zoom in, select circle, project geometry. I don't know why it's not working. We are going to create a circle at that point. Then we are going to give it a dimension. Let's say this is going to be something small like 2. Click OK, then finish. Now let's go to sweep. Click on sweep, and then it immediately identify. So when it comes to sweeping, there is a hierarchy. So a closed loop will always take a higher precedent, whereby it will take a higher ranking than an open profile. So it has selected, and then now we need to select the path on which you are going to create our sweep, and then click on that. Then you can see a preview there of how it's creates that. You can do a surface extrusion as well, or you can do a solid extrusion. And then apart from that, there is this where you sometimes you will need to create a flow path, or the flow to which the sketch is going to follow. So for this case, it follows this line. Yeah, and then there's this one is a fixed. Yeah, whereby the small difference between the flow path and the fixed, you can see at the end here, it kind of tapers the end a bit, and then you can choose a guide. Sometimes you have another profile on top here that acts as a guide rail. Let me cancel that to illustrate what that means. I'm going to edit this sketch. I'm going to create a spline. Let's say from this point to this point, then to that point. Click finish. and then we are going to drag this one up like that. Then we can hit finish. Then we are going to go to create a sweep. Then we select this, so that does what it does. And then this one, a guide is, you can click this one, and then you can see now is using the outer surface as a guide. You can see what it does there. And then you can okay, what it means here is this: anything that is closer, you can see this line is close to this, therefore at this end it tends to constrict. Yeah, and because now this one is far away, it tends to expand this. So that's like a rough idea of what it does. You can see profile scaling. Yeah, that is what it does here. And then alternatively you can do X scaling, what it does there. Rotate this. So X scaling is that it expands this along the X axis because the X lies on this. Alternatively, no scaling, it doesn't do any scaling, but yeah, it doesn't do any scaling, just gives a profile there. That is to give you an overview of what this thing does. So no scaling is like a normal extrude and a normal sweep through the profile. Then once you are done with that, you can click OK. Now that's how it looks like. Next, from the sweep, you're going to look at the loft. Going to delete this. Okay. Can even delete the sketch creator. Okay. Then we are going to start. Click on that. We are going to create something rectangular. We are going to say it's going to be 30. Click tab to put the other dimension. Then we can say it's going to be 40 on the other end, like that. Then I want us to do some alignment. So let's say this to align with the midpoint there. Then an horizontal line is back. Then click finish. Now we have a rectangular at the bottom there, and then we are going to create another profile that on a plane that is parallel with this. Yeah, so click on plane. I think plane should have come in front, but I don't know why this topic with respect to plane, I think on how you create these planes should have come from before this tutorial, but but you're going to learn. But it's not rocket science. You can see what I'm doing. So for creating a plane that is parallel with respect to this profile, you need to select this plane. Once you click on this plane, what I want you to do is you come on your canvas here, click anywhere, and then drag. Yeah, so drag without letting the cursor go. And then once you are satisfied, you can just let go the cursor. You can just let go, and then what you do, you can put your dimension there. You can say that you wanted to offset that plane by 30. Then once that's okay, click finish. Then we want to sketch on this plane. Now on this plane, I want us to create like a circular geometry, and for that we are going to project that center point there, and then we are going to snap our circle. From there we can say we want this one to be, I don't know, we can put something like click OK. 12 is too small. We can make it let's make it 20. Okay, and then we hit finish. All right, now once we are done with that, we can go to loft command. And then what loft does is that it takes a profile and merges one profile into another. All right, so that is what it does. So we can start with the bottom profile, click on the second one. You can see from the preview there is it tries as much as possible to merge these geometries together to form this shape. All right, we can do a solid, we can do a surface. We have to select these and these. Yeah, and then there are these. You can use guide rails, or if we had a center line at the center there, we can use as a guiding rail. Yeah, it automatically identifies this center and that center. All right, and then we can use area loft here. So you are welcome to explore all of these, what they do, but for the purpose of this, I'm going to keep it short. All right, and once you are done, that is a surface extrusion, not extrusion, but a surface loft. Yeah, a surface loft. We can edit these whereby we can toggle it back, but sometimes it doesn't work. Once you have selected that, you can go back. Yeah, so that's a surface. That's what loft does. You can convert this later. You can even convert this to a solid. Yeah, by sometimes you can have these a bunch of planes. You can convert this into a solid. What you can do, you can use the sculpt, although this one is not on the scope of this video. What sculpt does is that it identifies. You select a bunch of planes or surfaces. Right now, I prefer explaining by doing it. So select the bottom plane, select this one, and then select that. Click OK. So now what sculpt does is that from those faces and faces that we had, it tends to look for closed faces. Yeah, and then from those closed faces, it fills a mass or a solid into those as long as they are enclosed. It's like, for instance, pouring water into a cup. If the bottom of the cup is enclosed, so that water will not go anywhere, but it's going to fill inside. So that's what sculpt does. But we are not to talk about sculpt, but I was just showing you an alternative way of doing things. All right, from then we are going to talk about the coil. But before we talk about the coil, I'm going to do it as the last thing. We can go to emboss. Emboss is a way of engraving text onto a surface. So if I click on this surface, create sketch, I'm going to put a text here that we can say subscribe like that. We can increase the font size to something like 5. We can highlight the entire text. So press Ctrl A to highlight everything on your, make it 5, make it bold. Okay, it's big, and now since it's that big, we can select it again. We make it 3. Okay, it's still a bit bigger, so let's scale it down a bit by 2.5. Click OK. Yeah, but I think it's better. I don't really need to, you can do your alignment and everything, but I just want you to get the point of what it does. Once you have that sketch, select emboss. Now emboss is what it does is you can either do engraving, whereby you engrave into a solid, like this one is into from a face, this is our face, and then it subtracts material from our solid. Click on that. That is the profile. Then we can either engrave into or out of, and then we can put the depth. So put 1 millimeter. Now what that will do is it's going to, you can see that text, it has extruded that text from the surface and made that. All right, I want to show you the other one. We can edit this. We can do a subtraction. Now for subtracting is that it's like you are removing materials, and then you can see this arrow projects upwards. We want to shift that to the bottom such that it subtracts. Click OK, and then you can see what it does there. Quite a useful tool. There are so many things that you can do with it, depending on what you are doing. So that's emboss. And then I want to talk about decal. Decaling it's for creating pictures. Yeah, let's say you have an image you have stored somewhere. For that, you will need to create a sketch. For instance, I can select, let's create a plane. We cannot sketch on a curved surface. Yeah, you need to have a plane. So we need a plane. Let's remove it outside like this. Click OK. Now on this, we're going to, you can see, oh, okay, when it comes to planes, I also need to mention something here. This is the normal, this is where you usually create your sketch, and then there is this green side. Now the green side is like the back side of your paper. So what you always want to ensure is that this is always facing you. So click on the plane and then right click, and then there's this option, flip normal. You want to flip the other side to face you, and then you can sketch on that. Now we're going to import an image. I have an image on my desktop. I'm going to use this map card. Click open, click there, and then you can see this image is brought in. It's quite big, so we are going to scale it down such that it fits there like that. Now we have that image. Once we are okay with that, we click OK, and then we can go to decal. Now you need to select the image. It is selected, and then you have to select the face on which you want to wrap this image onto. So we select that and then click OK. Okay, now you can see what it does there. It kind of wraps that image around, but you can see there's a small problem here. This goes around. We want to prevent that kind of behavior, so we can go there and edit that. What we can do here is, what can we do here? We can prevent automatic face chain. Okay, yeah, so automatic face chain was activated. That's why it was wrapping it around. So alternatively, if that doesn't look okay, you can go back, scale it down a bit so that it fits there. Yeah, that is what a decal does. And then there is importing is where you have another CAD file that you want to bring into your model here. I really don't need to go deep, but import is just self-explanatory what it does. And then maybe something I can talk about is unwrap. It's a new feature. It was not there in Autodesk It was not there in Autodesk 2019. It's a new feature. It came if you have 2020 version, I think it's there. Unwrap, what it does, it creates a flat pattern. Like for instance, we have these faces. If I click that face, it's going to open it up. Yeah, you can see now how it makes that. And then there's something I need to mention here is you can see this, it creates like a heat map whereby these regions denoted by red, those are regions that will experience the highest stress, and then these ones, the blue ones, the least amount of stress. So it's like a heat map. Okay, so it creates a flat. You can even select this, you can see what it's doing there. It's unwrapping, it's like it's creating a flat pattern. This one like that, you can see, and then you can deselect the last one like that. Okay, depending on which direction, right now it's laid on the XY plane. That's why you are seeing that it's unwrapping down on the XY plane. You can shift to this other plane, which is the XZ plane. Yeah, you can see that. So there are so many things you can talk about that. Right, I'm going to cancel that. That at least has given you some idea on what unwrap does. And then the other thing I need to mention is about the rib, creating a rib. All right, we can delete, or okay, what I want us to do is talk about the rib. I'm going to go back. So to go back, click, okay, you see the end of path. End of path indicates the end of your design. Yeah, whatever you're creating, when Inventor runs, it knows here it's where it's supposed to terminate. So if you click and drag end of path and you move it backwards, so it takes you to the beginning. Yeah, we're going to create a sketch on the XY plane. We're going to create something that looks like this. Need to keep it simple, like that. You can click finish, then we extrude like that, click OK. Then we are going to create another sketch mid. So to create a mid plane, select this face and click on that. So what it will do, it will create a plane that is in between these two faces that we have clicked. Then click sketch. Then what we are going to do here is to project this point and that point, and then create a line that spans. I'm going to create a line from, I don't know why it's not clicking. Something at that point. Then we can use coincidence this to that. That is okay. Click finish, and then we are going to create a rib. All right, once I click on the the rib command there, you must have a profile. Then it has already selected that, and then you need to put your thickness, the thickness of the rib. All right, so for the thickness, you can either shift it like that, like that. All right, what is happening here is that the rib is like a structure where you want to maybe this face is being subjected to a certain amount of loading and it cannot support that. Therefore, you will need a rib for that. All right. So when I click on this second option here, is what it does is that using this line alone, it extrudes to this face and this face, because it identifies, yeah, you can see we have these two options. We have normal to a sketch, and then we have parallel, yeah. So this plane that we had here, it's parallel to this sketch, and this, the two are parallel, but they are resting on the same plane. And then we can do mid in between. We are extruding 0.5 on both sides. We can extend that to 2, go to 4, go to 6, depending on what you like. Alternatively, there's this here. This is the finite. So the finite, what it does, sometimes you need to specify, maybe you don't want it to go all through, you can specify it to be that 3 or whatever that you want. Yeah, if I'm using that because that's what I wanted, so then you can click OK. Yeah, it adds that to the geometry. All right, that is it about the rib. Then we can talk about derive. What derive is that it creates a part using another Autodesk Inventor part or assembly as the base component, or insert a pre-existing component into a part file. So deriving is like you want to create something. For instance, these things are they are self-explanatory in the sense that whatever you are seeing, if I highlight there, it explains to you what it does. So if you have a geometry created somewhere and you want to maybe add something onto that geometry or new features, you derive that. Yeah, that is what derive does. And then lastly, we can talk about the coil, what the coil does. So I'm going to again move back like that. So the coil, if I hover the cursor there, creates a helical spring or thread feature. You can specify the parameters of the coil, shape, size, at the end of the coil. So for the coil, you must have a sketch, you must have a center line where you're going to create, where it's going to loop, and you must have a sketch. So you need two things: you need a center line and you need a profile. So for that, we are going to click on start the 2D sketch. So we are going to sketch on the XY plane. Select that plane, and then we are going to create a circle of diameter 5 millimeters. Click OK, and then we are going to put distance to be 20, like that. And then we are going to have a center line. So for the center line, click on line and then activate center line there and snap at that point to, can go up to this point, say 100. Okay, once you are done with that, we need to align this to the center, this and this. Click finish, and then we can use coil. All right, now in the coil environment, you must have a profile, just like I said. So we're going to use this as our profile, and then our axis is going to be this one. And then here we have a method. So we have pitch and revolution. So the pitch is like from one side, from the from I don't know how I can put it. It's like a screw. A screw has threads around, so one revolution of the screw makes one pitch. So you can specify that. So you can specify spiral and height, whereby I want a pitch, because this one has a diameter of 5. We can say we want a pitch of 10, something like 10, like that. and then here the height we have to specify. So for the height you can click on this one, and then you can see a preview there of how it's going to create that. And then there is this, the angle, what it does. And then before I go to the angle, you can see the way the spiral goes, it's towards the right side. You can flip it around towards the left side, so you can toggle it back and forth. You can put an angle here, a transition angle. Let's say the flat angle, if I put that to 180, you can see what happens there. Let me go back. If it was 90, that's how it looks like. Type 180, what it does there is that at the bottom here, it tends to, let me click on this side. So if let's say it was 360, so the flat, it tends to, what that does there is that at the bottom here, it tends to flatten it down to the ground, to the plane, yeah. And then if it was 90, yeah, you see where it starts from. And then we have the transition angle there. We can put that to 180. That is how it changes, yeah, as it goes along. So the transition is how it's changing, yeah. If it was 360, you can see how it's transitioning back and forth. And then at the bottom here we have the angle, yeah, that is the angle. What does that? So if I click OK, I want you to see first of all what's going to happen there. So we have, that is our spring. That's how it looks. You can see here it doesn't look like right there. Therefore we can go back and do some editing there. That was caused by this one, so we can say doesn't look right there. So what I wanted to do is, because it's kind of bumping, yeah, you can see it's going to bump to that point, so we can put an angle there and say want that angle of 30 degrees. Then we click OK. That failed. Let's go back and edit that angle. Sometimes it fails, so you need to calculate it beforehand so that you know what you are doing. But that's just okay. Let me do something here. Let me convert this to 90, just like it was. Not how it was though, but that one looks better there at the bottom. So the coil command, that is what it does. It's for creating your coil like that. And then you can make this coil adaptive such that you can compress it back and forth. There's a video. You can comment if you want to see that in one of these fine tutorials, so that I make that. So I think I have gone over each and every command. If there is one that I have left out, you can comment down in the description below. If you liked this tutorial, I would highly encourage that you give me a thumbs up. Comment down in the description below what I should do next, what you would like to see. Yeah, then see you on the next tutorial. And before we go, okay, let me do something here. By default, there is this color. If you want to change this to make it something more realistic, you can come here. By default, this is the color. You can click here on top to change the material that this thing is made out of. Okay, it kind of disappeared. So by default is this one. We can change this to, I like using the chrome polished, yeah, that one. And then we can change the view, the visual style, the visual graphics to realistic like that. And then we can change from to perspective. to give you a more realistic view. That's how it looks like. So if you like this tutorial, I kindly give me that big thumbs up and see you in the next video. Doodles!